Welcome back to the Visually Hidden Selects podcast, episode 55. This is our 50th film specific conversation. Our first one was in episode 6 regarding Jaws. So if you want to go all the way back to fall of 2023, see where it all started, that's episode 1. But episode 50, Trainspotting. Wowzers, 1996, Danny Boyle directing, Ewan McGregor breakout role, everything I talked about in the VHS episode. If you haven't already, check it out, subscribe so you don't miss any future selections because we got some good stuff coming up. But today is all about Trainspotting and probably a little bit of Trainspotting 2, aka T2. So for me, I remember seeing previews for this film when it came out, and it was like, it's a Miramax distributed release. So if you were watching any of the slew of Miramax films in the mid 90s, like Pulp Fiction and Desperado and all that fun stuff, you were seeing previews for Trainspotting as well. And being a independent film guy, and even though I was in, gee whiz, what grade was I in? I don't even think I was in high school yet when this movie came out. And yeah, I was intrigued because at that point in time, that's when I was really getting like into film and cinema and independent film and even European film. So for me, this was kind of like a movie, and I was really super excited to see it. I did not get to see it in the theater when it came out. I don't even think I got to see it on video when it came out because it was sort of limited. I had to like special order my VHS from Suncoast Motion Pictures at the Nanuet Mall. If that means anything to anyone, that's my cred right there. But I first saw this movie on cable TV, and I remember it was like coming on at like 10 o'clock. And it's like, all right, I gotta be downstairs to watch it on TV at 10 o'clock. And it was almost, I kind of felt like I was doing something. Like I didn't see the movie yet, but like I knew I was watching something I probably shouldn't have been watching, even though I had already seen a bunch of stuff up to that point. That's probably in hindsight way worse. Like the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Friday the 13th franchise, even fucking Pulp Fiction in the movie theater when it first came out in October of 94. I wasn't even 11 yet, right? But for some reason, this movie, it had like a weird vibe about it when I saw it on cable. And I remember the part like when Spud wakes up after his night of drinking and he finds the mess he made in the bed. And I just remember like watching his reaction and not really knowing what had happened and just thinking like, the fuck, did something like explode on him? Like, is he okay? Like, and then realizing what he had done to himself. And it's like, oh yeah, because I've never been blackout drunk. So what do I have to compare that to at, 13 years old? So for me, and then all the shit that goes on with fucking Baby Dawn. Oh. But at the same time, I had already seen the Basketball Diaries. I had read the book, The Basketball Diaries, so I was no stranger to the world of heroin use and heroin addicts. And I know Steve, he's said a number of times he's not into drug movies. So I'm really happy that you took the step and you checked this one out, because as I pointed out in the VHS, I think it's a little bit more than a drug movie. It's really just kind of like a subtextual setting, and it's really more of a coming of age, which is kind of one of my VHS themes up here, especially with Breaking Away. But I feel like it's more than just a drug movie, and I'm excited to discuss it with you guys because both of you have not seen this one, and I have a 30-year relationship with these guys. Like I remember when the sequel came out, I went to the theater to see it, and I was so pumped because I was going to see my friends. I was going to see my junkie buddies, that I hadn't seen in 20 years. I wanted to check in with them. I wanted to make sure they were okay. And the sequel, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I felt like it delivered, in a way that maybe wasn't expected, but I felt satisfied. But before we get to all that, I want to know what was your experience, cuz like I said, I grew up with these characters. Like I said, they're my friends, they're my buddies.
So me, I just heard the title several times as a reference in cinema. Like everybody was saying, "Oh, Transpotting is something," but I
Mm.
didn't really know what it was. So I just knew it was about junkies, and it's not really my thing to watch those kind of movies. So that's why I waited so long to watch it. But it was a very good surprise. I really enjoyed the acting and the way it's filmed actually. So I didn't know much about Danny Boyle either. So yeah, so everything was a good surprise, and I was really, I mean, a bit disappointed that they make a second film. You know, I don't have your enthusiasm about it.
Oh, don't get me wrong. A standalone film is always preferred, but if you're gonna make a sequel, you know, there's certain things you need to have, and I think they had it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. It's not a bad movie, second movie, but yeah, I think when you have just one movie, it means something also, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why I was a bit disappointed. But yeah, it's a good follow up. Let's say that way.
Well, and in 100% fairness, Trainspotting is based on a book, as I mentioned, and the book itself has sequels.
Oh, okay.
So the idea for a sequel to this film comes from
Yeah, that
the
makes sense.
literature source.
Mm-mm.
Well, as Pete said, I have actively avoided this movie for decades for two reasons. And I first of all, I love Ewan McGregor, so it's like it's always like should I? But I've actively avoided it because I really do not like drug movies, and B, this is one of those movies I've heard so much hype about that I'm like it's
Mm.
not going to live up to the It happened to me with the Boondock Saints. I was like that's the movie everyone's fucking raving about, and I was like I don't want to feel that. Because I
Mhm.
feel like I can't get past that because in my mind now it's been built up to be the greatest thing in the world, and I know I'm just going to be disappointed. And I watched it. I'm like, all right, it was okay. And I sat on it for a couple days and thinking about it. And then I watched one of the special features, the interview with some of the guys, and I was like, okay. I still was like, I don't know how I feel about it. I didn't know how I felt about it. Honestly, I just was like, I don't know. I was kind of indifferent. And I let a couple more days go by, and then I was like, that's why I watched this one earlier than I usually watch the films. I usually watch them closer to recording day, just to give me some time to breathe with it. And then I was like, I still don't know how I feel. And then I watched it again, and I definitely liked it better the second time that I saw it. But upon first viewing, visually striking movie, and I feel like had I seen this when it came out, maybe I would have appreciated it more because it's a very '90s film. Towards that run in the late '90s, when we had some excellent movies coming out. It's one of the best decades for cinema. Period. Um,
Mm.
but then again, I wouldn't have liked it because I would have been 15. And I don't know if it would have spoke to me, um, or anything about the movie might not have spoken to me. So who knows? But I have an appreciation for the film now that I've seen it a second time. I felt the second time viewing was necessary for me because, like I said, getting the first one out of the way is like, you're going to be disappointed because of all the hype you've heard. Because I have a couple of friends of mine who have talked about this for fucking years. And I'm like, oh god, and I just can't get away from it. It's okay, fine. And once I got that out of my system and I gave it a couple days, it was actually over a week that I let it go, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch it again, and I did, and I enjoyed it more the second time. I thought it was, like I said, visually striking, some great imagery. Um, I was angry during some of the scenes at some of the characters. The thing with the baby was like it was gross. It was heartbreaking. It made me furious as a
It
father.
really takes you on a ride.
And yeah, and I just thought I just wanted to punch them all in the fucking head, and
Mhm.
it was disturbing. It was probably one of the most disturbing things from a film, because I've
Ever.
seen people use needles in movies before. Like I said, I don't love it, but I've seen the Basketball Diaries. I've seen kids. I've seen some things, and it's like okay, fine, whatever. But seeing that, I was like, oh, that's a hard one to shake or to walk back or whatever. Um, but I'll tell you what, I popped big when I didn't know Kevin McKidd was in this movie, and I popped big for that. So, oh fuck, because I think he's awesome, And I was like, holy shit, because I know the guys from the box, I know Jonny Lee Miller, I know, okay, fine, but I had no idea he was in this movie, and what a pleasant surprise because he was fucking awesome in Rome with Ray Stevenson. I watched him on Grey's Anatomy with the wife. Even in fucking the Toy Story universe. So to watch this guy in all these different things and to see him in this so young, I was like, holy shit. But it was a really nice surprise. And Kelly Macdonald, I was like, wow, this is a stacked cast. And I didn't realize, that she was in this movie because she's awesome. So I have grown to appreciate the film, and I didn't think that I would. I tried to get out of my own way and get out of my own head and just be more open to it. So that's why I did a second viewing. I'm glad that I did.
Yeah, about the fact that you said that when it came out, you were a teenager, and maybe you wouldn't have liked it the way you probably liked it now. The fact is, the film seems to be on drug and junkies, but it's about a group of friends. And I think when you're a teenager, that's why Pete's experience is really interesting, because you watch it, you were younger, so the group of friends, maybe it talked to you at that time, and the fact that you see how they get separated by life. It's interesting to watch it when you have the age you have right now. So I think that's really interesting, someone who watched it when it came out and someone who watched it now, to see the evolution of your group of friends. And so maybe you would have another perspective on this film if you had watched it when it came out and you watch it again today. And about the baby, I just wanted to say something about the baby. How smart it is to have this baby all along. You see it crumbling around. I don't know how you say that, but walking around.
Crawling around.
Sorry, trailing around. And you don't understand. You're like, oh, poor baby in the middle of the junkies, but cute face. You don't know what to think about this baby. It's not really moral to have a baby around, but whatever. And suddenly the baby's dead, and it breaks you hardly. It brings you in a brutal life right away. It really is a break in the film, you know what I'm saying? And it's so smart, because that's something you see without seeing it. Really, you don't expect that death. And I think it's one of the best narrative arc. I don't know if we can say it's a narrative arc, because I mean it's just the baby going around, but it's crazy. And you have the same feeling about Tommy also. Tommy's death. He was the healthiest guy in the band. You don't expect he's going to die like this, like a shit. Sorry, but really like a shit. So yeah, I mean that's the intelligence of this film. You really don't expect it's about junkies. No, it's about a group of friends and their tragic lives. And yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and the decisions that they make and the hard lessons that they have to learn from. And that's one thing that I really appreciated in the sequel, is catching up with them and just following up on things, and just even the throwbacks and the callbacks into this film. The stuff with Baby Dawn, like you said, like, yeah, she's there in the beginning as they're moving through Mother Superior's house, and she's crawling around. And when I first saw it as a kid, like, I didn't even think anything of it. It's like, oh yeah, like, there's a baby. Like, it didn't like occur to me that they were irresponsible fucking junkies who like should not be having a child around, like, let alone a baby. And then, you see her there throughout the whole first half of the film, and then when the fucking anvil drops on everybody, and like they show her in the crib, it's like, oh no, like, you don't know what to feel. Like, Steve wanted to punch him in the head and all this stuff. And like, yeah, like, as a grown-up looking at it now, it's like, yeah, that is like one of the most horrible things imaginable. But what makes it great in the context of the film is that it haunts them You know, like when Renton is going through withdrawal and she's crawling across the fucking ceiling at him, like
Yeah.
that is haunting him, even though it's not his kid. And so that gives you an insight into his character and like the the moral person that's actually in there underneath all of the suppression from the drugs, you know. And then in the second one, when he throws it back at Sick Boy and says, you know, she'd probably have kids of her own by now, you weren't there being a fucking father when you should have been. Like, he's still carrying that around with him.
Yeah.
And Sick Boy, the impact that it has on him, you know, you see him, he's usually like, you know, the cool James Bond guy, and he fucking breaks down there over the crib, and then he's like has that shadow over him for the rest of his life, and it even comes into the sequel. And that's one thing that I love about the sequel is the carryovers and the consistency.
I thought as far as sequels go, well, that's how you do it. You know, you don't try to retread the first one. You got to build upon what you've created and offer something new. You know, still being true to those people. But yeah, I thought it was a success in that regard.
About the second film, what I like the most is the fact that we know a little bit more about Begbie, because in the first film you understand that there is a lot to say about this guy because he's the one who is not taking drug, but he has an addiction to violence. Obviously, he likes it, he wants it, he's looking for it, and I think in the first film I was a bit disappointed that they did not develop more this character, and that's what I really loved in the second opus. But I feel that the second opus, if you haven't watched the first film, you might be a little bit lost sometimes. I know they do like flashbacks, but I try to understand the film as someone who just watching the second movie. I don't know if you feel the same way. I was a bit like, okay, you have to have seen the first one first. No?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, and I think that's the case with most sequels. You know, you really can't, unless it's designed and engineered that way, you can't necessarily jump in to
Oh,
a
I don't agree
story.
on that because Indiana
Well,
Jones or Terminator or things like that, you can
no,
watch
but
this film.
those are designed and engineered to be
Mm,
standalone
mm,
things. The Indiana Jones are their own adventures. The James
mm,
Bonds are their own
yeah,
adventures, you
mm,
know. But with this one, it's a follow-up to the
mm,
characters' lives. It's not like Trainspotting the next generation and we're learning about a whole bunch of new characters, you know. It's not their kids that we're following with and connecting with now. It's these same characters. So the way it's written
mm,
and presented, yes, you don't even necessarily need it. You could get it, but it won't be as impactful. It won't be as rich, and you won't have the insight that you could certainly use from this film in watching the second film.
mm. But
But
in the second film, when Renton is explaining to Sick Boy that he has a perfect life, he's married with kids, I was so happy for him. I was like, oh, he did it.
mm,
And finally, it was a lie. I was, oh my God.
you know, and I think that's another great thing about the well, even just with this film is like the consistency of the characters, you know. We've talked about a couple of films over the course of the series, you know, where like Goodfellas, for example, like they're the same character in the beginning that they are at the end. You know, there's no real arc. And here, Renton, he's like striving, he's struggling for an arc. He's like doing everything he can, you know. So it starts out with him describing about his addiction and why and this and that, and then right away he's going to quit, and it's about that struggle to get off. And then halfway through the movie he has the overdose, and then he clears it. He moves away to get away from his junkie friends so he's not falling back into his old tropes. But then even at the end, you know, like they come for him, you know. And what does he do? He fucking robs them and like flees the fucking country, you know. Like that's the extreme he has to go to get out of this shithole of a life he's like been birthed into.
I was very angry when the friends come and you know, he's trying to do the right thing, the responsible thing, get a job and be
Yeah.
clean, and they just like attach themselves like barnacles to the bottom of a fucking ship. I was like, oh god, get these. That's part of the reason why I don't like drug movies is I don't understand. Like when
Mm.
I was in school, health class, like, hey, you take drugs, two things are gonna happen. You're either gonna become addicted or you're gonna die. Said it. I'm good. Don't need to do them. That's all I needed to hear. And then also, I had a second cousin who I saw firsthand had a drug problem, and I saw him get violent in front of me. And I saw the way he was living and what he looked like, and I never had a desire to do any of that stuff. And so, like, when I see these movies, I'm like, I don't get what the appeal is. Like, and once Tommy decides, like, hey, I'm a big boy, let me take a shot. And I'm like, oh, God, this is a mistake. Right off the bat, I knew this was not going to end well for him because, it's just not, And so that's why I have a problem watching some of these films. And now, especially that I'm older and I'm a father, so just watching some of the decisions that these guys are making, I'm like, oh fuck, this is, dude, that's the wrong thing. So it's hard for me to break away from that and just accept the movie sometimes. That's why, again, I did a second viewing of this, and I'm glad that I did. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get past some of those things in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I like about this film. It's about drug, but it doesn't romanticize it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's from the beginning you understand because Renton, he has his problems, of course, but he's quite pragmatic. I feel that way. He understands that he's under addiction. That's what I like because drug movies, I agree with you, Steve. I don't really like them because most of the time it's like, oh, it's so much fun to be high, and it's not really the case here. And you have different type of characters that explain to you what addiction is. And for me, it's a movie you can show to your kids, maybe not too young. I agree with you, but can show to your kids about addiction. The fact that even if you're really motivated to stop, it's so hard to stop. And it goes for drug, but it goes for cigarettes, for alcohol, but also to gain weight, to lose weight when you have anorexia or obesity. It's the same. Sometimes you're really motivated, you really want it, but your life and your psychology and things like that, they impact you so much that it's so hard to do it. And maybe you're gonna fall, but maybe you can rise up again. Nothing is the end of it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
It's
totally.
always a fight. Yeah.
So I have a hard time, me and chocolate have quite a relationship, and I can't kick that fucking habit. So like, I definitely can't start any kind of hard drugs. A, I can't afford it, and B, there'd be no end in sight. So yeah.
So you can relate. You
Yeah.
can relate to that.
Yeah, that's one thing I also really, I guess, appreciate about this film, especially as I've gotten older and, moved through the different stages of my life and just the people that I've met and the real relationships that I've had. I have friends who have struggled with addiction, different kinds of addiction in different capacities. I mean, of course, I made the documentary about the band Rip House, and a couple of those guys had big struggles with addiction, and they have subsequently become close friends of mine. So I have that insight into it, and seeing this film at such a young age, it kind of like gave me a groundwork for understanding different personalities, and that addictive personality is really something that's real. It is a sickness, and it is something that you have to channel. And that was, again, we keep talking about the sequel, but Renton tells Spud when they're hiking on the mountain, like, you replace it with something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that one of my friends told me. It's like, I have an addictive personality. I did this because that's the way I'm wired and programmed. And so in order to stop doing drugs, I had to replace it with this. And that's the only way you can really do it, is you have to take that focus, that energy, that effort, and put it into something else. And so for him, it was one thing. And then over time, it transferred into another thing. And, that's, it's true. And I think this film, it doesn't sugarcoat it, which I appreciate. It also presents it in a way that is safe, like they didn't actually kill a fucking baby, like, but it shows you the extreme of that character's reality, where
Mhm.
it's like, oh man, yeah, like I don't ever want to experience that. I don't ever want to fucking like witness that. I'm gonna put myself as far away from that kind of situation as possible. Thank you, Danny Boyle. You fucking opened my eyes.
Especially with Tommy, you can really relate because this guy was
Yeah.
really out of this business, out of this shit, and suddenly because he feels bad, he does what he shouldn't have done, and that's the end of him.
I feel like Renton's to
So
blame for Tommy. He steals that videotape, which causes a
Yeah.
massive problem. And then I mean, he was high at the time, but he also sold his friend his first hit, and then that kind of became that was the beginning of the end for the poor guy. So
Yeah.
it's like maybe if you didn't steal that videotape, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back for Tommy's girlfriend. It's like maybe if that didn't happen.
I love at the end of the film when Renton he's ripped off the money and he's walking and you hear his monologue and he's talking and he says, "The truth is, I'm a bad person."
Mhm.
Like I always love that line because it's so honest.
Yeah.
And he's aware of it, and we've been on this journey now throughout the whole film, and he struggles with it, and the fact that when it does come back around, like he's still kind of the same person. Like when they go to that one little club and they play the song and they rip off
Mhm.
that little fucking history cult, the Protestants and the Catholics, like, yeah, he's a bad person, but there are worse people to be.
Yeah.
But he's not without his flaws, and yeah, and even in there, he's carrying around the baggage of Tommy, and so that's another thing that I feel like makes the sequel a worthwhile investment of your time as an audience. You think about it, it's like, here he is, he's a young guy, he's a young actor, he's in his early 20s, and like he comes, prior to this, he had done a handful of things, including Shallow Grave, which is also a really good movie. It's a different kind of movie. It's like a suspense thriller, totally different direction. So I believe I mentioned that in the VHS as well, like just the diversity and the dexterity of Ewan McGregor and Danny Boyle on display between those two films. But he comes, kind of out of the gate with something like this and this character and this performance, and it's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
and this was 1996, like this was like 30 years ago. Like it's still one of, I think, his best performances and one of his best films. When you look at the rest of his filmography, it's like, yeah, of course he's gone on to bigger things. I don't want to say he went on to bigger and better things though. Like
Mm.
some of it's really good, but some of it's also like, oh yeah, anybody could have done that. Not that he's not good in it, but
Yeah.
there's something about this film, this character, and this performance that just is like stand out in my opinion, and in a filmography, like who wouldn't want that in their career,
I agree.
like,
I can't
wow.
I can't disagree with any of that. Yeah, he's done some great movies, but yeah, this is a remarkable performance. Watching the first one and the second one, and then going back and watching the first one again. I don't know. This is just me. I feel like Renton is avoiding life.
I think it's a social point of view about that because in the 90s in the UK, I don't know if you know that, you had a lot of unemployed young people. It was quite difficult in the 90s in the UK. So I think it's what the films also wants to witness in a way. And Renton is the good example of that. At the end of the first film, you understand that Renton is keeping the money just for him. I mean, he gives some of it to Spud, and that's the interesting thing to see 20 years later what Spud has done with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt bad at the end of the first film that he's doing that that Trenton is doing that to his friends. But when you watch the second film, you understand that actually it was a good thing for them, because probably all of them would have done the same as Spud, meaning using it for drugs. And you see that because sometimes, I don't know if I can do a parallel, but sometimes you see people in the street, they ask you for money and you want to give your money to them, but you feel that, are they going to use it for a good thing or for drug or alcohol? You always have this feeling. And that explains it in the film, that when you're addicted, the only thing you want is to use it for your drug, and you're still at the same point at the end. So actually, Renton maybe did a good thing for all of them, in a way.
Well, see, that was something that kind of changed for me in seeing the follow up to that. Like at the end of the first movie, when he leaves the money for Spud, I was like, oh man, yeah, he came through for Spud. All right,
Yeah.
Spud's gonna be all right. I had that like
Mm-hmm.
optimism for Spud, and like he's gonna turn his life around, and all those things he was talking about in the bar, he's gonna get and have. All right. And then, we get to the sequel. And he's like, I was a fucking junkie. You gave me $4,000. What the fuck do you think I was going to do with it?
Yeah.
I never felt bad at all about him fucking over Begbie and Sick Boy for all the reasons that he said at the end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly because they used his savings. Like Renton was entitled to half of that money, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I had a big problem with them basically squatting in his house, eating all his food, selling his TV.
It's my fucking telly.
Selling his TV, trying to sell his passport. He had to go hide the passport. And then they went into his account. They saw how much money he had. It's like, you're overstepping. So like, I was totally on board. I was rooting for him to get away with that fucking money.
Yeah,
I'm glad he did. Because Bigby was going to go to jail. The moment the cops found him. So the money was going to be useless to him anyway. So Sick Boy's the only one who really got screwed over. I mean, as far as not getting the money. But that was one of the heartbreaking things. In the second film was he catches Spud about to kill himself. I was like, oh man, that sucks if he doesn't get there in time. And then he does, and he's like, you ruined my fucking life and you ruined my death. Those are as fucked up as it is. I thought it was a great line.
Oh yeah,
and a good delivery. Sad delivery.
But I felt bad for the actor, because the most disgusting scene in each film, it's always him.
Well, I don't know. Written in that toilet in the first one, I was like,
oh yeah. That's
when I saw that in the first 15 minutes, like, Jesus Christ, this is disgusting. This is all the reasons why I don't like drug movies. It's like skeevy, dirty,
But I read to shut the scene, it was chocolate.
Yeah,
make you feel better.
Yeah, you love chocolate.
Not served like that, but yes.
Not out of the toilet bowl.
Even I have limits.
Yeah, but the whole cast, I love the consistency of the cast, because you think about like, oh well, they made this movie, and then 20 years later they made this movie, but there's such like a strong consistency from the performances in this movie. Like everybody is rock solid, top of their game in this film, and 20 years later they're only better, because of all the real life experiences that they've had as actors outside of the story of Trainspotting. So they have so much more to bring to their characters who we're now catching up with. You know what I mean?
Robert Carlyle is terrifying. In both of these movies.
Yeah.
More so in the second one, because he's completely fucking unhinged. But not saying something.
And also Kelly Macdonald. I noticed in the VHS video you made, Pete, that you highlighted her performance in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to talk about the second film, but I mean, she's important in the first one, of course, but I was really satisfied to see her again in the second one, and to see the smart woman she became. Because to be frank with you, I was a bit worried about her in the first one. Not herself, but her parents. They saw a guy sleeping in their house, and in the morning, oh, you want to have breakfast? Like, it's normal. I mean, I was a bit worried to see those kind of parents, So she became a strong woman.
they said, like, are you a friend of Diane's? And he said, more a friend of a friend. So he was just crashing on the couch. Like they had no idea what actually happened, which
I don't know if they had no idea. I'm not
I
sure about that. I feel that they used to
I
having this kind of situation. You know, I don't know.
I don't think they were aware that she was sleeping with
Uh,
older men.
I
No,
don't know.
I don't think that would fly because that's what she holds over him to see her again.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was surprised to see her in this movie. The first time I saw her, I was like, wow, this is an interesting choice. But then the second time I watched it, I was like, what a good character. Because
Mm-hmm.
here's like a teenage girl who's got her shit together. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she does questionable things. Not saying that she doesn't, but she's like a sounding board, for Mark.
Yeah.
Like, hey, times are changing. Life's, moving on without you, pal. Music's changing. Everything. You what are you gonna do this all day?
I love the reveal of Diane, like the morning after,
Mm-hmm.
when he's sitting down having the toast with the parents, and then she comes in and she's in her school uniform, and just like the look on his face, and then the look on her face, and then the walk to
Mm-hmm.
school, and
The
she's
walk of
trying to
shame to
hold
school.
hands. Yeah. it's it's such a great like setup and execution of the morning after, and everybody has their morning after, Spud in the bed
Mm-hmm.
with the, explosion, and then Tommy and his girlfriend in front of the video store. It's like, man, what a shitty fucking day.
Yeah.
So guys, what is your favorite scene?
I mean, I mentioned it in the VHS. My favorite scene is when it's really the sequence from basically when Mark overdoses and falls into the floor and then dries out in his bedroom, and his parents come to visit him. Sick Boy comes to visit him, and then he's hallucinating Tommy in there, and Spud and Baby Dawn, and just all of his demons coming home to roost. And Begbie's in his bed. He's
Yeah.
like, like just all of that. I think is really, really captivating and insightful, not only for the character but also for the audience, and like what a person goes through, like the demons he's facing and what he's trying to medicate himself away from. If he could, he would just inject heroin and all that shit would go away, and he would just float to this like euphoric paradise where everything's great and none of this is bothering him.
Mm-hmm.
But the come down from that, the reality that he's like struggling with by not having heroin in those moments, and like the fucking like harsh reality that he's facing, like what a fantastic, beautifully illustrated sequence, and the way his parents are intercut on the game show,
Yeah.
like part of the hallucination and everything that's going on. There's so many great visuals in the film, but especially in that sequence from when he sinks into the carpet to basically when he gets his blood drawn for the test, like, and he's sitting like while they're like playing bingo or whatever, and he's just like spacing out because he's like so numbed by reality. That whole sequence is amazing in my opinion.
No, I have two. I agree with Pete on that one. It's so. It feels so weird to say, "Oh, that's my favorite," the dead baby in the ceiling.
Yeah.
But it's visually, it's probably one of the most interesting sequences in the film. Just all the camera stuff that they're doing there. That's the reveal of that Tommy has AIDS, because we don't know that yet until that happens. And then like you find out,
Mhm.
and then he goes to the apartment, and you see all the slurs written on his windows and his mailbox, and all that stuff is fucked up. But yeah, so that was one. And I again, when he sees Diane, that whole once that atomic song starts playing, that whole
Mhm.
montage of all the guys going through their night, I really enjoyed that part.
I also really like the ending when he wakes up, or maybe he hasn't gone to sleep at all that night. He's just been waiting for them to
Mhm.
fall into a deep sleep, and he gets up, and again that song "Born Slippery" starts playing, and the whole soundtrack. I mentioned it. I have it here. It's amazing. It integrates so well into
Mhm.
the film and into the edit, and that last sequence when he rips them off and like makes his escape, his getaway. It's it's all punctuated by his narration,
Yeah.
that closing narration, which bookends from his opening narration. And I just think it's very well done.
Yeah.
And that's what I was about to say. That my favorite scene is probably the end when he wakes up, and I love the eye contact he has with Spud just before
Mm-hmm.
leaving the room. I really love this moment. I also really love the beginning when they're playing what we call football here in Europe, but for you, I guess it's soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he gets the ball in his head, and then thanks to the editing, it's a great editing. You have him falling down on the rug. It's I really love this moment. But what makes me laugh the most is maybe you're gonna think I'm cruel, but it's a scene between Renton and Sick Boy. They're in a park, and they're talking about the fact they're trying to detox themselves, and they're shooting a dog. And I feel that's so stupid to do that just for the dog to attack its owner. I think it's funny. It's ridiculous, but I love the color contrast. You really see it with this scene. It's so
Mm.
bright, and the scene before and after, it's so dark. I really like that. It plays with color contrast all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of the direction, we didn't really talk about it, but it's really visual. And I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but yeah, you have many things to say about it. The fact that it's episodic, we
Mm-hmm.
really have every moment has an episode, so you feel like watching a series in just
Yeah.
one movie. That's great.
I think, you know, to speak about that, the direction of it, I mean, it's really stunning. I was just going to add that the part at the end when they're in the bar and Big B's getting into that shit with the guy at the bar on purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
you see Renton's face, and they're behind him. He just realizes this shit's never going to fucking end. Like they're going to be
Yeah.
these people forever, and that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I was rooting for him to get the money, because he showed capacity for change. He showed that he gets clean twice in the movie, and he shows that he could make something of himself if he wants to, but he has to be away from
Mm-hmm.
them. And then he
Yeah.
realizes there, this guy's gonna get into a fucking fight. The cops are gonna show up. I got a bag full of money. What like it's just gonna be a fucking problem. And he
Yeah.
realizes that he almost has no other choice, but just to like you and I agree. He's deserving of that money because they use his savings to do it. And then they're just gonna piss it away, some way, shape, or form. So why not? Out of all the guys, he had the most capacity for change. So I
Mm-hmm.
was rooting. I was rooting for him to get away with that money. But that visual, to see without words what he's thinking in his eyes, like
Yeah.
this fucking guy is going to start a big bar fight right now for fucking what? We just got all this, we just got a score, and you're going to do
Yeah.
this. It's like fuck, and even said even the stuff with Tommy, like him just seeing the stuff written on the house, on the windows, on the mailbox, like it tells you what this guy's been going through before the door even opens. And it's
Mm-hmm.
heartbreaking to see this guy who's like, at one point he's lifting weights and like he's always tells the truth, and like, oh, so what really happened in the day? He's having to fight about this, that, and this. Um, but man, what a downfall! But just to show that with the visuals, you didn't need a lot of overworked dialogue to make it.
Yeah, no, the whole movie is visually stunning. and and even we've talked about like a number of like spectacular shots, and like even in the sequence where he's detoxing and like the room's getting longer, the
Mhm.
bed's pulling away, like there's really inventive and creative and fun shots like that. But even just like the opening shot, you've got the street, and then the foot comes down and the music starts,
Mhm.
and we're like running down the street with them. It has this energy. Every frame has an energy
Yeah,
to it, and it's very deliberate, it's very intentional. And the way, again, going back to the music, it's it's integrated. There's, for example, we see the movie begins with them running away from the department store where they've just stolen a bunch of stuff, and it's like falling out of their jackets as they're running away, as the security's chasing them, right? In the middle of the movie, we're back in that same scene,
hmm
but it's a totally different piece of music, and it reconfigures the tone of the story and the energy of that scene, but it still works because of the way it's shot and the way it's framed and the way it's edited and put together, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely.
And that's something that, like, okay, they were thinking about this before they did it, so they could do it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's not like, oh, let's just point the camera and roll and see what happens. Like, we'll get it in editing. Like, no, like they
purposeful.
very, very clearly, yeah. Danny Boyle made a decision, made a commitment, and then executed it like incredibly. I would definitely say that this film has a sustained quality about it because of the things, you know, the direction that we spoke of, the cinematography, the integration with the music, and then just the story, the way it's told, the characters that come in and out of it, and then just the narration and the performances. It really kind of all comes together. And then, even though it's just Scotland or England, you know, like, it's not like a super exotic setting, but it is, you know, to most of the rest of the world, like, it is kind of an exotic setting, because usually, I mean, they have their own film industry, but it's an island, you know what I mean? It's not like a big massive country with deserts and deserts of ice, you know, like tundras. Like, it's its own little spot on the map that we get to explore through this story. And I think that's also part of the captivating quality of it. At least for me, it's like, I've never been to Scotland, but I've been to Scotland, you know, a number of times. Not the nice parts.
Yeah.
That'll about do it for us here today at the Visually Hidden Selects podcast. We will be discussing a completely different film next time, so make sure you head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe so you don't miss any future selections. You can catch Stephen Bendler over at Steve's Pop Culture Corner on Instagram. Anna and I, of course, are also on Instagram as well as Letterboxd, so you can follow us over there and find out what we've been watching and see what we think. And until next time, choose life.